Hello. Parts of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe are heavily influenced by one of Lewis's favourite books, Le Morte d'Arthur, the stories of King Arthur and his knights as presented by the 15th century writer Sir Thomas Malory. I'm thinking today of the parts about the white stag, as we'll see. Lewis discovered Malory in his mid-teens while he was studying with a private tutor down in Surrey in the south of England. He enjoyed the intricate Surrey landscape, the little valleys and villages tucked away in the woods, the field paths and the sunk lanes and the copses and the assortment of cottages and farmhouses and manors. And he compared it all to the labyrinthine complexity of Le Morte d'Arthur. He was charmed by the woodland journeyings and leafy recesses in Malory. And he also found there what he called a fresh, sweet breath from the old-time fairy world wherein the author moves. He explains all this in Surprised by Joy, his autobiography, and these books and landscapes furnished his imagination with images that would colour his own descriptions of woodland scenes in The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe and Prince Caspian. 2/3 of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe is set in woodland Narnia. And when Lucy goes to tea with Mr. Tumnus, they sit by the fireside, and the faun begins to talk about the forest. He had wonderful tales to tell of life in the forest, it says. He told about the midnight dances and how the nymphs who lived in the wells and the dryads who lived in the trees came out to dance with the fauns. About long hunting parties after the milk-white stag who could give you wishes if you caught him. Well, that was near the beginning of the book, and it's not until the very end that the milk-white stag appears again, during the reign of the 4 kings and queens at Cair Paravel, during Narnia's golden age. And again, it's Tumnus the faun that brings the news. So they lived in great joy, and if ever they remembered their life in this world, it was only as one remembers a dream. And one year it fell out that Tumnus, who was a middle-aged faun by now and beginning to be stout, came down river and brought them news that the white stag had once more appeared in his parts, the white stag who would give you wishes if you caught him. So these 2 kings and 2 queens, with the principal members of their court, rode a-hunting with horns and hounds in the western woods to follow the white stag, and they'd not hunted long before they had a sight of him. And he led them a great pace over rough and smooth and through thick and thin, till the horses of all the courtiers were tired out, and these 4 were still following. And they saw the stag enter into a thicket where their horses could not follow. Then said King Peter, for they talked in quite a different style now, having been kings and queens for so long, "Fair consorts, let us now alight from our horses and follow this beast into the thicket, for in all my days I never hunted a nobler quarry." "Sir," said the others, "even so, let us do." And it's a fascinating part of the book because Lewis draws so much on Malory and that idea of the great joy in which they lived. Well, great joy, for starters, a very common phrase in Le Morte d'Arthur. It's there again and again. So they lived in great joy is Lewis's version of they lived happily ever after, you could say. And you might have noticed that they start to talk in rather old-fashioned language, rather like the knights in Malory's medieval epic. "Fair friends, here is a great marvel, for I seem to see a tree of iron. Madam," said King Edmund, "if you look well upon it, you shall see it is a pillar of iron, with a lantern set on the top thereof. And I know not how it is, but this lamp on the post worketh upon me strangely. It runs in my mind that I have seen the like before, as it were in a dream, or in the dream of a dream." "Sir," answered they all, "it is even so with us also." And Queen Susan says, "By my counsel we shall lightly return to our horses and follow this white stag no further." Lightly? Lightly? Well, that's from Malory too. It's a very frequent phrase or word. It means quickly, without delay. And Lucy says, "It will not go out of my mind that if we pass this post and lantern, either we shall find strange adventures, or else some great change of our fortunes." And that phrase, the strange adventure, pure Malory, doesn't mean something a bit odd or weird. It means fraught with dangers and marvels. And a bit later, Susan says, changing her tune rather, Then in the name of Aslan, if ye will all have it so, let us go on and take the adventure that shall fall to us. And that phrase too is common in Le Morte d'Arthur. Let us take the adventure that shall fall to us. It's part of the chivalric code of honour and bravery and the readiness of knights to embrace challenge and trial and quest. And it's a phrase Lewis uses a number of times in the last battle. So Lucy says, "It seems to me that we should be shamed if for any fearing or foreboding we turn back from following so noble a beast as now we have in chase." Peter, Susan, Edmund and Lucy are medieval knights on a quest. Which brings us to the hunting of the white stag itself, which you find not just in Malory. If you go back to the early French tales of Chrétien de Troyes, for instance, there's the story of Yvain, a knight of King Arthur's court, who was captivated by the beauty and the grace of the white stag and gave chase. But whenever he came within touching distance, mysteriously eluded him and eventually vanished among the trees of the forest. But Yvain carried on in pursuit until he was completely lost. And he rode on through the woods in a kind of daydream about the stag. He goes on to have many strange adventures that test his mettle as a knight. In Le Morte d'Arthur too, the white stag appears at Arthur's court and leads knights into all sorts of adventures. But I think the one that's most significant for The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe is later on in the story, during Galahad's quest for the Grail. And Galahad and his companions come to a waste forest. Waste meaning wild and desolate, which I can't help but think of Lewis' forest being called Lantern Waste. And they see a white hart which 4 lions led, which they follow as far as a chapel which the creatures enter, and they follow inside where a priest says mass, during which the white hart shapeshifts to a man and sits on a throne upon the altar, and 4 lions too transform into man, lion, eagle and ox. And then they all pass miraculously through a closed window, which remains unbroken. And then the knights explain what they've seen to the priest, the hermit. And it seems to have been more of a vision than anything. He says it's a sign that they are good men, that their quest for the Grail will be met with success. The white hart without spot, which is a biblical phrase, incidentally, was Christ, he says. And the 4 creatures were the evangelists, Matthew, Mark, Luke and John. So you see why people think that the white stag, which is one of the last images that Lewis leaves us with at the end of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, is actually Aslan, the great lion, and hence an emblem of Christ. The Malory connections certainly tie the white stag to something deeply spiritual, and the Mass setting reminds us of the participation of the divine in the earth, in the body of Christ. And the pursuit of this sacred stag speaks partly of the pull of the other world. It's a final guide to whatever adventure may next befall. So let us go on to take the adventure that falls to us this week.